And we're live. So, welcome everybody. Risorto Report, proudly broadcasting from my parents' basement in North Carolina. A lot of people have been hating on me, saying that I've always been broadcasting out of this basement, but inaccurate. Fake news. Been reporting from my own apartment in New York, but I'm on a little bit of a vacation per se. So, who am I to deny myself of that? But we have a little show here for you today. I'm going to be giving you a quick baseball. Yes, baseball. I know I'm representing the union, but 10:49. But we got to discuss some baseball because we have a season now. We finally have a season. Hopefully, if this coronavirus decides to behave. So, where do we begin? We've got Mets baseball, we got Yankees baseball, Marlins, Nationals. Who names it? We've got baseball back this season. Thank God, because along with hockey and basketball, even though I really don't pay attention to much of it, and I'm not a big basketball fan to begin with, uh, I think it's going to be a good season. Despite it being 60 games, it's going to be a little bit difficult because if this was a 162 game season, if you look at it like this, the Nationals went 19-31 in the first several games of the season, and they went on to win it all. Now, if that goes without saying, if that happens to any other team this season, let's say it goes with that, they ain't going to make it. If you have a slow start, it's going to be hard to get back. There's some rules that we got to discuss as well, which I'll get into later. Owners should be ashamed. They could have been reasonable. Well, the players could have been reasonable too. It's not always about the players; it's about the owners and how things are going to go. So the onus goes on both of them. You like seeing pitchers hit? Yes, I do, because I hate the DH. Everybody who knows me knows I hate the DH. Well, if you wanted to go 81 games, that's something that the players were opting for, but owners didn't want to pay them fully. But players wanted to be paid fully. So either way you slice it, both parties are to blame. So you really can't say one's more responsible than the other because both are responsible. So let's just go with that. So we have a 2020 season. The opening game, which should always consist of the World Series champs, despite how much you might hate that team or whatnot, it's consistent of the Washington Nationals versus the New York Yankees. Now, if my assumption is correct and the way this is going, I'm going to believe the it's going to be at the Nationals home and it's going to be two games. So that means with this new schedule now, before I get into it, is going to be for American League for National League versus National League teams. So the divisions are NL East and AL East, for example, just for this season. It's only because of the shortened season and all that. Oh, come now, James. But I'll talk to you about something else later, James, so that I know your opinion on it. But when it comes to this, National League teams will be facing each other. It's going to be 10 games each. When a National League and an American League team face each other, it's going to be 4 games. So with this, the Nationals are going to say the Nationals are going to play the Yankees for 2 games, and they'll also have to play the Yankees again for another 2 games. So I'm going to assume this is going to take place at Nationals Park or wherever it may be, and the other two against Yankee Stadium or wherever that may be. So we'll see where things go from there. But there are some proposed rule changes that I'm not in favor of. Some of them are, I believe, just in this season alone, which I'm perfectly fine with. But still, it's not one that I'm a fan of. One of which, what I'm not a fan of, is the universal DH, because God knows I hate the DH. But for this season alone, because of the COVID nonsense and all this BS going around, you have to live with it. I don't know if it's going to bleed through into next year, but you know what? We'll see how things go from there. Now, when we talk about this other rule, which I am absolutely pissed about, it is this: put a runner on second in the beginning of extra innings. That is the most BS thing I have ever heard. You're giving the other team the advantage. I get Manfred wants to speed up the game to people who don't follow baseball or to the younger generation. But that's not the way you speed up the game. Neither is getting these robotic umpires. Neither is this no pitch intentional walk BS. I'm not a big fan of replay, but you know what? I live with it. Now, what else is there that I'm not a big fan of these new rules? Oh, pitch clock. What the hell's a pitch clock for? What the hell is you have to have 6 mound visits? I can understand if the what's called if the if catchers decide to come out a lot, Gary Sanchez, and talk to everybody because he can't catch. But at the same time, why are you limiting this? It's strategy. There's no reason to have these limits in the game. Now, challenges, fine. I'm not a big fan of challenges, but I could live with it. I could live with challenges. I could live with replay. If you want to make a correct call, I get it because some of these umpires are terrible to begin with. Angel Hernandez, woo, got a bit of a North Carolinian cold here. I don't know. Oh God, Matt, I'm not a big fan of that either. It gets rid of the. What Matt just posted here was the 3 batter minimum for relief pitchers or pitchers in between. I'm not a big fan of that because it gets rid of the left-handed specialist. It's also with this make the game quicker all the nonsense. Manfred's a clown, if you ask me. Chimpy is upstairs resting. She's not allowed downstairs, James. Should off himself. Well, that's not appropriate. Another umpire I don't like who takes things into his own hands is Adam Hamari. If you don't remember Adam Hamari, he's the one who ejected Noah Syndergaard without a warning for throwing behind Chase Utley. Hamari is also known for taking things into his own hands and also ejecting players that you might not be talking to him, but he'll think, oh, no, he might be talking to the umpire at first base, but here I am. I'm Adam Hamari at home plate. I'm going to eject him anyway. Also, Vic Carapasa is the same way. So there's that. Oh, boy. But let's dive into this. Let's dive into the Mets and Yankees because those are the 2 primary teams that I'm familiar with. I'm not familiar with many other teams. Well, pitchers go headhunting versus Houston. I believe, David, they made a rule or made it very clear that if you go after players that in Houston or anyone affiliated with Houston back when this started, I think you were going to be ejected or subjected to a fine or something like that because they were not going to take that lightly. And we saw that in spring training before this COVID nonsense started. Now, with the New York Yankees, they've got a powerful squad ahead of them. The new addition there wasn't really many additions. There was more just of a addition, just the one in Garrett Cole, who signed a ridiculous. My God, that was. I don't know if I would have signed him to that, but that's a virtual lifetime deal. It is a 9-year, $325 million deal with an opt out after 5 years or so. But with that, and here's where I'm speculating at this point. I've looked at the deal thousands of times, but I haven't looked at it in the past couple of months. I believe if he wants to opt out, the Yankees can say no, add an additional year and additional money to make it a 10-year, $339 million deal. No one deserves that kind of money, all right? No one. No one at all deserves that kind of money. Cespedes doesn't deserve what he got. Cole doesn't deserve what he got. Harper, Arenado, you name a guy, he doesn't deserve it. No one deserves that kind of money. And I'm no cap expert or no luxury tax expert here, but my God, who earns that? Who plays that much? You want to say Wayne Gretzky earns that much? Yeah, sure, go for it. But these guys? Not at all, man. Well, let's hope. For the Yankees' sake, let's hope he's actually, beneficial to them. Unlike a Jacoby Ellsbury signing, but let's hope for the Yankees' sake that this is, a good signing, and let's see how he does in a bandbox for a home field. Let's see. For the Yankees, though, with that one addition, they have a subtraction too in Luis Severino, who fell victim to Tommy John surgery. But there's a lot of controversy behind it. The same goes for Aaron Judge back when they faced Houston this past year in the playoffs. I believe the issue was they were pushing him or something, and he felt some discomfort, and the Yankees didn't address it, and he kept pushing forward. And that could go on the player as well, because if the player says, "Hey, I'm feeling good, I could play," and they say, "Listen, I'm fine," okay, you're fine to play. But if the player says, "I'm not feeling too good," or something's hurting, but the team says go out and play anyway, then it's inexcusable for the team. That's neither here nor there. So Severino's out for the year with Tommy John. The Yankees brought back Brett Gardner because now another signing of theirs from I think last year, Aaron Hicks. Now he's having Tommy John. First, it was Didi Gregorius. Now, Luis Severino. And now, Aaron Hicks. You signed him to that big contract. The same goes for Severino. They signed him to that big contract. What was it, 4 years, $40 million? And Severino has yet to play a full year out of the contract? I don't know, man. I wasn't a big fan of the Hicks contract, but you know what? He's viable to the Yankees. They bring back Gardner back, so there's that. Stanton is the DH, and I don't think he would make a good fielder, honestly. I think he's just preferably a DH, which I absolutely hate, but that's neither here nor there. Judge, I think they said he should be good to go. There was question marks coming in regards to if the season wasn't suspended. What else was there about this squad? Uh, Gleyber Torres. There's going to be question marks revolving a Miguel Andujar as well as Gio Urshela. Who's going to be playing the third base, or who's going to be the DH for that matter? You're going to have Luke Voigt at first base. You're going to have, I believe, it's going to be Torres at second or Torres at short. Who else is going to be at second base? I'm not too sure. I'm not sure because now you don't have Gregorius anymore. He went to the Phillies. Oh wow, I might actually have to look this roster up because I haven't looked at these rosters in quite some time, and I'm a little embarrassed by that. So let's see here. I got to look up the New York Yankees roster because you would think preparing for this I knew everything, but it slips my mind. I don't remember. My question is who's going to back up Gary Sanchez, but now with what was his name? That was the backup last year. Wow, I'm really drawing a blank. Damn. I guess Higashioka is going to be the. Oh, right now I remember DJ LeMahieu. Right, that was it. Gio at Urshela at third, LeMahieu at second, Torres at short, and Boyd at first. That's a pretty good infield. Now the question is, what's this outfield going to be like? I'm going to assume it's going to be something towards the effect of Stanton in left, Gardner in center, and Judge in right. They could shift Judge to center, but who knows? So we'll see how that goes. But now, excuse me, what they're going to do with Clint Frazier, who knows? They still have Talkman, so that was a good signing on their part. They've got all of these relief pitchers. So I have no question that their bullpen is secured, but their starting rotation, you've got who is it? Garrett Cole is your number one. Now the question is, who is your number two? You've got J.A. Happ. You have got Paxton. You've got Tanaka. Well, Tanaka might be your number two. Tanaka's your number two. Let's see here. You've got Happ as your possible number three. Who else is there? You have Uh, you could have Paxton as your number three. I'm sorry, as your number four. And you got Jordan Montgomery as your number five. So that's a decent rotation. That's honestly a decent rotation. It's not a stellar rotation by far, but it's a decent rotation. As long as you have that bullpen and the bats for the Yankees can keep going, I see no reason why they can't be studs. Shifting over to the Mets now, my team. It's going to be tough. But with the young squad that this Mets team has, I think they can make a run. But that depends on how well they come out of the gate. Because with this 60-game season, it's going to be difficult. They can't hit any bumps in the road. They can't have any extended losing streaks. Because that's going to kill it right there for them. Now, in a sense, you could say this is going to have a whole bunch of asterisks around it because it's a shortened season, expanded playoffs possible. All of these thises and that's is everywhere. Braves are stacked, yes. Now, when it comes to the Mets, they've got Alonso at first base, which is good. Cano at second. He didn't have a great year last year, but as a defensive second baseman, he's good. You have Rosario at short. You have Jeff McNeil at third base, which he should have been from the get-go. But Todd Frazier was there. We all know where that went. You've got Cespedes coming back, who could be a possible DH. So you put J.D. Davis in left field. Listen, he did pretty well there. You have something different now. You no longer have Juan Lagares. So you most likely have either Brandon Nimmo or Jake Marisnick to be center field. Personally, I think it's going to be Brandon Nimmo because Nimmo is more familiar with full-time starting. Marisnick is a part-time player, which for those of you who don't know baseball, part-time is they come in towards the later innings, towards the end of the game. So Marisnick could be a defensive replacement like Lagares was. But here's the thing. Lagares wasn't accustomed to the part-time role. Marisnick is. And in right field, you have Michael Conforto. Now, what you could do here is two different things. Actually, I'm sorry, a few different things. You could have, depending on how Cespedes' leg is, and no wild boars, I hope, you could have him play in left field, but if his leg isn't, all up to snuff, you could have him DH, which is fine. You could also have Dominic Smith play first base and have Alonso DH if Cespedes isn't up for it, or if he's for whatever the reason not playing well. Oh, Todd Frazier lost his grandmother due to COVID. Oh, very sorry to hear that. Condolences. But there's a lot of options for the Mets. Their bullpen did get stronger in the sense of bringing on Dellin Betances to a modified deal, which is if he's not 100% healthy, which I assume he's going to be, if he's not 100% healthy, then he has all these clauses that he could say, listen, I want to come back for next year, this, that, and the other. So we'll see how that goes. They brought Brad Brock back. Listen, he was a decent reliever for them. For chump change, not even. You got all these other guys. Seth Lugo as a reliever. You've got Jason Shreve as a minor league guy. You have Robert Gesellman. Hopefully he has a bounce back year. Edwin Diaz. Hopefully he has a bounce back year. Justin Wilson, a left-handed pitcher, which is good. But you have Noah Syndergaard on the DL for the entire year because of Tommy John surgery. Now, I don't listen to WFAN. I can't listen to them. For your rotation, Jacob deGrom, the two-time back-to-back. I was about to say Stanley Cup. Wow, two-time Cy Young Award winner, back-to-back, is your starter without a question. Is your number one. Your number two right now is going to be Marcus Stroman. Your number three, I'm going to assume at this moment. This is just me speculating. I'm going to assume it's going to be Rick Porcello as your number three. Your number four is going to be Steven Matz. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be Michael Walker as your number five. People keep saying, why doesn't Lugo start? Why doesn't Lugo start? Well, he's got the partially torn UCL. And whenever he would pitch a game, if he would go two innings in a game or threw too many pitches, he'd be out for 2 days. So how do you think he's going to be when he's pitching an entire game or, 6, 7 inning game, or even 5 innings? It's not going to be good because you could just lose another arm like that. But who knows? Oh, by the way, quick shout out to my friend Kevin. Happy birthday, Mr. Kevin. And here's the thing. Hope you're making smoothies. Otherwise, we'll be singing Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A. Maybe. So, where do we go from here? Where did the Mets do? What did the Mets do for now? In this season, you have a brand new manager. You don't know what he's going to do, but it's a brand new manager. You also have a brand new bench coach who is experienced, who's been behind an experienced manager, a successful one in Bruce Bochy. Bruce Bochy is not the bench coach, but I can tell you this: Hansley Mullins is the new bench coach who could really help out Luis Rojas. And here's the thing: Rojas has managing experience. The Mets went the old school route with this after they fired Beltran or he resigned or whatever it is. A lot of these new managers, for instance, the Padres' new manager, he was a coach. He wasn't even a manager. He was like a behind-the-scenes guy, and they gave him a manager job. They gave David Ross a manager job in Chicago. He's never managed a game in his life. Manager, well, he hasn't managed a game so now. Who else is out there? You'd have to figure. Wow, I just lost my train of thought on who else became a manager. The Royals went a veteran route and hired Mike Matheny as their manager. That's a good thing to do. The Mets went old school in a sense because they went with a guy who hasn't had major league managing experience, but has had minor league managing experience. And that's the way it was. You had guys who would work their way up through the minor leagues, and they would manage in the minor leagues, and then they would eventually come to the big leagues. Well, in this case, Luis Rojas fits that role, and he knows most of these Mets farmhands. Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, Dominic Smith. He knows a bunch of them, even Noah Syndergaard. He's very familiar with them, so who knows? Maybe he can get the most out of these kids. I don't know. I hope he has a great managing career. I wish him nothing but the best. We'll see how it goes. But who knows? That's the thing. We won't know. All of this is on paper. The Yankees could have a great season, or the Yankees could have a terrible season. The same with the Mets. They could have a great 60 games, or they could have a terrible 60 games. We don't know. If this was 162 games, we'd be able to have a better picture. But because it's such a shortened season, we have no idea. We don't know what's going to lie ahead. We can't really make a projection. Because let's say the Yankees are on a good streak. All of a sudden, for some reason, one way or another, the same could go for the Mets. For whatever reason or the other, injuries or just bad luck. Who knows? We don't know what's going to happen. Beltran had a large role in the cheating scandal. I hope someday he sits down with someone and tell his story. Well, the real person who they're saying is really behind this is Alex Cora. That's just what is being told right now. Supposedly Beltran had a role in it, but he was protected by the players' union, so there's all that. Because back then he was a player. And why didn't management stop it? Well, who knows? We don't know. Because they were on par with it, or they just said go with it. We don't know. Well, listen, David, I'm not saying they're going to have a terrible season. I'm saying it's possible. Anything can happen. I'm not saying they're going to, but I'm saying in this short 60-game season, they could just flatten out. We don't know. I'm saying the same thing for the Mets. They can have a great season. They can have a terrible season. That goes for any team. You can have a great season or you can have a bad season. With this season, you got to have a great season. You can't just have a bad season and have it go back to good. You got to have a good season throughout. You got to have a good 60 games. This isn't one of those, oh, we did bad in the first half like the Nationals, and then we'll go to the World Series. No, you got to have a good season through and through with a little bump in between. You lose some here, you lose some there. You can't go on these big losing streaks. Each series for the Mets and the Yankees, you either have to do a sweep or a 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 2 or whatnot. Not going to answer that question, David, because this isn't a hockey podcast. Sorry. Keeping hockey out of this. Even though I made a bit of a hockey reference, but that's neither here nor there. So where do I think the Mets will do? I don't know. The same with the Yankees. I don't know. It also depends how these guys train up. Spring training starts Wednesday. Thank God. Teams are supposed to report there, and I think the official training starts the July 3rd, I believe, is when it starts. They do the testing for the COVID and all that, and then they get into actual spring training activities and all of that. Do I think the Yankees will make the playoffs? I think so. Do I think the Mets will? I think so too, but we don't know what this playoff format's going to be like, or if it is. I haven't looked at it yet, but because of these big divisions now that have 10-team divisions, it's going to be a little difficult. The way it's set up is it's AL West versus NL West. That's one division per se. That's the Western Division. The Central Division is the AL Central versus the NL Central, and the East is the NL East versus the AL East. So that's how that's going to be. You're psyched for live games. So am I. It beats watching these MLB 20 games, which I haven't even watched. Oh, hey, the Mets and the Yankees are doing good. Well, it's a fucking game. Pardon my French. It's a game. It's a video game. It's not the live thing. I don't want to go by that. Especially when they talk about it, it's like, oh well, look at this, look at that. Who cares? It's a video game. When you tell me it's a live thing, I'll pay attention to it. I'm not going to look into a game where it's like, oh, hey, everything is fake. I ain't going to fall for that. Same thing with football, with hockey, and basketball. Well, I don't care. But I'm not going to pull a Max Kellerman and say, who cares about this or no one cares about that. I'm just not a fan. Sorry, Max Kellerman. You're not going to get away with that on this. I don't like simulated games. I can't stand them. Unless I'm playing the video game myself and I don't want to play that particular team or whatnot. I'm not a fan of simulated games because nothing goes well with the simulation. It never goes to plan. For the last final 4 minutes, question and answer time. Kevin, that's your fault for missing 25 minutes. I gave you a birthday shout out and you missed it. But because you're Mr. Kevin, and today is your birthday, I believe, or whenever it was, because I haven't been paying attention. I guess I'm not a good friend for that. But I will say it again. Happy birthday, Mr. Kevin. Are you handing out smoothies? Are you making smoothies? Are we going to sing Chick-fil-A? Will there be MVP? Will there be awards like the MVP or Cy Young this season? I would have to imagine so, but I think in this instance it will have a big asterisk next to it with every exception to it. Because instead of a pitcher having, let's say, 20 some odd starts, they're going to have a lot less. It's virtually going to be cut down to 3/4. In a sense, I'm not good at math, but that's how it sounds like it's going to be. And you're going to have to really say, did this person really deserve it or did it not? I mean, listen, if they pitch well and they win the Cy Young, yes, they deserve it in that regard. But you're going to say, is it really a legitimate award? Yes, but it's going to be, it's going to be. Just going to throw this out there. Let's just say, for purposes of discussion, Clayton Kershaw wins the Cy Young. You can say, okay, well, listen, he deserves a great pitcher and all that. He had a great year, but would he have pitched this way throughout 162 game season in the 20 some odd starts or so? I don't know. Neither do you. Neither does any expert. We don't know because of injuries, bad. He has a clunker of a start, bad start. You're entitled to them. They just happen, but we don't know. So we won't know exactly. So we can't really know. We won't know who the reliever of the year is. We won't know who the pitcher of the year is. Who's the home run hitter of the year or, the silver slugger, this, that, and the other. We won't know. And we can't say because let's just say, thank God there's no All-Star break. And thank God there's no, home run contest. I find those to be BS to begin with. If you want to have an All-Star break, do it towards the end. Kind of like the NFL. Do it towards the end where no one's going to care. But because of the long season, I can understand. I'm just not a fan of it. Anybody else have any questions? By any chance? Please. Questions and anything. If you're going to ask me who's going to be the World Series champion, I can't really say. If this was a 162 game season, I'd be able to tell you, and I could say, I could have a good guess with it. But because it's 60 games, I just don't see it. I really can't, honestly. I can't say, this team's going to be a definite because it's 60 games. There really isn't much you could say to this. If they were playing 82 games, maybe I could get a prediction out of it. Maybe even 100 and some odd games I could. 162 games, absolutely. But 60 games, you really can't. It's basically sudden death season is what it is. Aside from, like I said, the Nationals or the Mets even, when the Nationals went 19-31, everyone thought their season was done. And then look at them, they came back and won the World Series. You look at a team like the Mets, they had a terrible first half. They had a good April, but MLB culture is you never go by what you go by in September, and you never go by what you see in May. You never go by that, especially what you see in spring training. Never go by that. Because April is everyone's getting warmed up. September is when the minor leaguers come, and it's race to the finish at that point. And spring training is, well, spring training. You can never go by that. But you look at the Mets, what they did. They had a terrible first half, and then in the second half, they surged to playoff contention. But unfortunately, they lost too many games towards the end, so they collapsed. But it's a season to say, hey, this team has the fight in it. They didn't just sit down and just take it, but they made you fight for everything. And I went to a good chunk of games last year. I don't remember how many, but it was a good chunk. I will say this though, I'm looking forward to this season with a lot of asterisks, but we'll see how things go from there. Quickly, anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns? Because we're coming up on the 1 minute mark. Any questions? Anywho. Mr. James, Jimmy Stallone, and Mr. Fox, the legend. Kevin, you came way too late, man. I'm sorry. You came way too late. Not good at all, man. Not good. Any thoughts? I'm just hoping for a competitive season for the Mets. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be interesting. I can definitely tell you that. For all we know, the Miami Marlins could have a stellar season, for God's sakes. It could be a Marlins versus Tigers World Series. That's something we could see with this 60-game season. So we'll see. Until then, thank you very much, everybody, for watching the Risorto Report live baseball show. I'm your most gracious host. You've never blessed with my presence, Greg Risorto. And I'll see you on the next news update or whenever the Islanders start playing. Catch you later.